4 years ago, the DoD recruits Thomas Gabriel to be a cyber spook for him, okay? First day on the job. Tells his bosses this nation's security is wide open to compromise. They say, we'll take it under advisement. But he don't ease up, because he's committed. So he breaks into a meeting of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and with just a laptop, hacks into NORAD and shuts down our defense network. So they put a gun to the man's head and forced him to stop the hack. Thomas Gabriel's the guy who shut down NORAD with a laptop, just to prove a point.
Is that from Independence Day?
That is incorrect. Would you like to try, Andrew?
The Swordfish?
That is also incorrect.
Any
one of the
hints?
two main stars of this movie is Justin Long.
Oh, this is Die Hard 4.
Wow.
You got it, fam. That is correctamundo.
Die Hard 4.0.
Die Hard. Yippee-ki-yay, my guy. Yippee-ki-yay.
Mother Internet.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
The moment of heart-rate feeling, zero to start.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Welcome to the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast. It's Justin.
And I'm Joey.
I'm Andrew.
And we've been gone for a while, but as we'll see, time is relative as we chat about Christopher Nolan's sci-fi epic Interstellar from 2014. Plus, we'll see how crazy it is for a sane man to try to blow off the rest of his prison sentence in a nut house in the Best Picture-winning drama One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest from 1975.
All right, and just a heads up, we do discuss our full thoughts on film, so if you've not seen the movie, please skip forward to avoid spoilers. I don't know, go watch it, come back. I would definitely say if you have not seen Interstellar, you should stop listening, go watch it, and then come back.
And if you'd like to be a part of the Movie Clubcast, make sure to hit subscribe, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. So Joey, as we just heard a moment ago, we are not alone this evening. Who have you brought from across time and space to podcast with us this evening?
I've brought my new good friend Andrew here from across my city. So he started coming into my work buying video games, and we started talking about wrestling, and we started talking about football and video games, and then I don't remember how we started talking about movies, but we started talking about movies, and then he talked so very much about how much he loved Interstellar that I decided to pick it and then convinced him to come on. So
here we are.
So
tell us about yourself, Andrew.
Yeah, so I am an avid lover of film, and to answer your question about how we started talking about movies in the first place, I brought up Letterboxd one day in the store, and you were like, "My guy, Letterboxd. Let me tell you about Letterboxd." So it started from there and got into the fact that we both enjoy Criterion Collection films quite a bit as well. Back in 2013, right around the time Interstellar came out, 2014. I and three other guys ran the Florence Film Society here in Florence, South Carolina, and we screened a bunch of awesome stuff. Had a really thriving community for about 3 years there, and then people moved away, had to end it. But one of the movies that we actually showed was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is interesting. So that's the last time I saw that film. So huge film buff. As Joey mentioned, love video games, collecting retro video games specifically. And I am maybe the only one in South Carolina, but I am a massive Jacksonville Jaguars fan from day one, 1995, for my life. So lots of pain there, but one day that pain will go away.
So they say. When you say, so did you have a projector that you screened them with, or did you guys just watch them on DVD, or what happened?
Great question. So we actually, I was responsible for booking all of the films and purchasing the rights for all of that stuff back in the day. And we were partnered with a local coffee shop in town who had a projector set up for various other events going around in the community. So we knew them pretty well. So it was kind of a mutual thing there. So we would have the DVDs mailed in, screen them. We partnered with Francis Marion University for a couple of years to do some English literature film discussion from various professors at that university. That was in 2015. And in 2016, we did a quarterly art house series in downtown Florence, which is kind of our goal in the beginning, to kind of get to the point where we could be an art house downtown, very similar to somewhere like the Nickelodeon, Terrace Theater down in Charleston, those places. So that was our big dream. Didn't realize it yet, but who knows, one day it all might come back again. So a fantastic experience. We got to bring in filmmakers for that art house series every quarter and have them speak about their films, do a Q&A afterwards. Really was a lot of fun to experience that in a community like that.
Awesome. And what's the most obscure film you guys watched there?
Oh, great question. So we probably screened over that 3-year period and somewhere over 60 films. So we would do these twice a month. So it was at least 60. Most obscure thing we did was probably Nosferatu. We actually had a person come in and talk about Nosferatu.
The Herzog one or the black and white silent?
Black and white. Okay. Yeah. So we screened that, and then we had a professor. His name was Professor Smollenmorton. Great last name.
Yeah.
And he came in and discussed the film at length for about an hour after the film was over. So that was the most obscure when we went back in there. Some fun ones we did. Night of the Living Dead. We screened Chinatown. That was actually our first film we screened. Joey over here, big Chinatown fan now. Oh yeah,
big noir boy.
Yeah.
See, I told you.
So yeah, that's it was a good kind of mixture of we wanted to at the time really broaden people's horizons about what film can be from a storytelling mechanism, and how photography and cinematography can be used to tell really impressive stories across a spectrum of years. And so we showed new stuff too sometimes, but a lot of times it was things that most people would not have invested their time to go see otherwise. We wanted to be a differentiator in the market here, where you can't go see these movies at a regular theater. You gotta be educated a little bit about that kind of stuff. And so we wanted to be that kind of educational centerpiece for art and cinema. And so it was a lot of fun.
You have any questions? Ask Andrew as well, Joey.
No, because I wasn't expecting that. I don't have
no. Like, he jumps into a podcast with nothing to say.
Look, I fly by the seat of my pants. Anybody who listens to this podcast knows this by now, guy.
Oh my gosh.
No, I do want to say though that's actually really cool. I wish I had known about that back then, and maybe we should try to make that shit happen, fam.
Never know. Like I said, it could always come back. People move away, life changes. I had my first kid in 2016, where my wife did. I was there for it. But life comes at you different seasons.
I like it better that you had the kid. You take all the credit for that, because yeah. Make sure I tell your wife that you said you went through labor.
I physically birthed that child myself.
Yes. Also,
I would get slapped across the universe.
Well, here's the thing. So if we can prove that you did that, you're going to be rich, and then we can do the Florence Film Society because you will be a gazillionaire.
Correct. I'll just be Arnold Schwarzenegger in that movie where he has a fucking baby.
Last time I asked Joey to tell a question.
Look, you didn't tell me ahead of time, guy. that's kind of my fault. I didn't go, hey, are we going to ask these specific questions? But you're the one who likes to play 30 questions, so I figured you had that on lock. All right, so we'll hit you with a couple of the kind of the usual suspects.
Put me through the gauntlet, man.
All right, so favorite director.
Favorite director, Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. Okay.
Favorite Wes Anderson.
Darjeeling Unlimited.
Ooh.
Or Darjeeling Limited, excuse me.
That's an unusual pick.
First movie in theater.
Wow.
Remember.
That you remember, yeah.
That I remember, honestly, dude, it was The Lion King.
Okay.
The Disney cartoon version when I was
Nice.
like 6. And Scar scared the crap out of me.
For sure. For sure. I remember seeing Who Framed Roger Rabbit at the Julia back when the Julia was the big deal. Holyfield in Florence. That in the Capri. To date myself a little bit here.
Yes, sir. Rest in peace, Capri.
Oh, the Capri.
I remember watching Land Before Time as a toddler.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I was real little at Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like, shouldn't have probably been in there. I mean, I think I know the answer to this next question, but just to let everybody know as we're going, favorite movie of all time?
Well, I'll preface it by saying that until I had seen the film Interstellar in 2014, it was Blade Runner by Ridley Scott. It's one of the films that has meant a lot to me personally over the years. One of the first films that got me into noir itself when I was coming up. But Interstellar changed all of that for me, and we'll get into that on the podcast later.
Cyberpunk noir, I like that.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's that movie that brought you from average guy just going to the movie theater, catch the latest blockbuster to actually thinking more about this stuff?
Yeah, good question. So when I was in high school, I worked at a Regal Cinemas movie theater and ran the projection system there and learned how to splice film back when we saw film, thankfully. It was pretty cool. So I learned a lot about a lot of just unique...
Are you Tyler Durden?
I'm not Tyler Durden. I can't confirm or deny that I am, but in this state of mind, I'm not.
Hey, don't steal my pick.
And so, getting into that scene with other people that were very passionate about filmmaking, learned a lot from them, and they were a little bit older than I was at the time. Obviously, I was in high school, so it was something that I was like, yeah, I want to go see the new Lord of the Rings movies, right? And then what changed for me was really seeing other people's perspectives in the community, and got into really, that was my entry into like Humphrey Bogart. Like, honestly, I didn't care about that as a kid at all. It was just like, whatever, it's black and white, I don't care. I want all the action, cool stuff, right? And people turned me on to Humphrey Bogart when I was probably 16, 17. And I've seen all of his films at this point. I still have my original DVD box set of all of his stuff. Like, so that tripped me into noir pretty heavily. And so from there, it was like, well, where does this go from here? How do I get into how do I get into how did I discover more of the artsy style of films? And well, I went to film school in college, and so I moved to Orlando for about a year and a half. Went to Valencia College and had a film school there, and that was kind of my dream. I wanted to become a filmmaker. It didn't work out, but I'm happy now. Right? But it was that was kind of my turning point into, oh wow, there's an art to this. So. Being in school around other people that were passionate about that kind of material and that kind of style of documentary filmmaking and understanding that there's more than just big action Hollywood movies was kind of an eye-opening experience for me. And so, there's this, I think I stand on the shoulders of a lot of other people before me to help me understand that cinema is quite a fantastic piece of art. And there's so much I haven't seen still, which is the exciting part.
Awesome. All right, you want to get into what's been going on lately?
Sure, let's go.
So you were saying something about the dentist?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm getting the first of several procedural things done, just depending on when and if I have money. So Tuesday, I'm getting a root canal and like some fillings, and then I'm gonna have to probably have another root canal and some other, a bunch of stuff. It's like $5,000 or $6,000 worth of stuff. I could probably go a cheaper route, and it probably wouldn't be done as well, and I'd probably lose some teeth, which I'm trying to avoid.
You might wake up in
Vanity
a
and all
bathtub
that.
without a kidney too, so better stay away
Say
from
what?
that. You might wake up in a bathtub in ice and without a kidney too, so you better stay away from those shortcuts.
Well,
All
I mean,
legit.
I mean, it was still an actual dental office. It was
Oh,
just
you didn't specify. You just said the shortcut. I didn't know if we were talking to some guy in the street or what.
All right, Joseph Porter. But no, you're right. No.
Hey, SA, you want some dental work done? Yeah, we'll treat you right. We got tequila. We'll do this right. You're
Look, not
racist. I'm sorry.
everybody just walks around with liquor like you do, Justin. You alky.
I'm not walking around. I'm sitting right here in my comfort of my home.
I don't know. You could be walking. I don't know your life. But no, that and just working. Still selling video games, which has led me to buy more imported video games for consoles I don't own and have no way to play. They're just sitting over there because they're in they're all from our Nippon overlords, and so yeah, just more Japanese games. That's really it. Trying to watch more movies. I'm up to like 8 new movies this year, which is really slow pace for me, so hopefully it'll pick up soon. Watched a lot of John Woo. I'm gonna watch some more John Woo, so
Cool. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, this is my 3rd podcast in 3 weeks because Joey kind of putting pause on the cast. I guess I lined a few other things up and it all kind of materialized here at the same time. It's all good. Been a crazy blitz of a day between work and working out and getting this ready, but it's been crazy stupid busy, and it's only starting now with the kids. Like, I got a damn soccer game at 9 a.m, 2 kids doing baseball, scouts, karate, so it's like nonstop. So hopefully I can still squeeze movies in, but that's the challenge. Anything going on with you, Andrew?
Yeah. Speaking of kids, so I have 2 kids. My oldest lost her 2 front teeth that were baby teeth, thankfully. So speaking of dental work, that was an emergency dental visit that we had to deal with last week. So that was fun. Work for me has been so I'm a test automation engineer. So I just write code that tests code, basically. And it's been busy as hell for the last 2.5 weeks because we just put out a major security change to our entire ecosystem. So lots of fun. I say fun. Lots of busyness. Not a whole lot of downtime to do the stuff I really want to do, which is play video games and watch a lot of cool movies. So when you have that the source of your income invade your personal life a little bit, it is what it is, but it's funding your fun later on. So this weekend I'm clear and free to do what I please, and so that's always nice to get that break after a sprint.
So did you have a favorite movie from last year?
From last year?
Mm-hmm.
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, okay.
That was probably the favorite film that was new last year that I saw.
Popular choice.
Yeah, I think it stuck with me the most, probably, as far as the storytelling devices are concerned. Unpopular pick, but I also really enjoyed Shang-Chi, which is one of those weird, not sure where it fits into the Marvel spectrum.
No, Shang-Chi was a lot of fun.
It was very enjoyable. I was surprised by it. I thought there was great pacing, great storytelling, good action sequences.
And Awkwafina.
And Awkwafina. Always a good thing to have Awkwafina in a movie. So last year, those are probably the 2 that stuck with me the most.
Right on. Let's get into what else we've been watching with the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, I have on this big screen again, a big return with some major weight and gut-wrenching.
I have Acknowledge Me, Ric Flair,
Woo!
and V-Trigger.
V-Trigger.
All three of mine are mysteries, which you'll discover in the next 5 minutes, more than likely.
Oh, you don't have a cat? Okay, that's cool. You don't have a good, a bad, the ugly, or a good, a better, a best, or because we just call them whatever the fuck we want because we're lame that way.
Don't start it off as good, bad, and the ugly, and we
I
often
don't have
return
clever
to that.
titles for them, but
Okay.
I've got the titles.
All right. Well, Justin, you want to go first, or we want to let our guest go first? How do you want to do this?
Let's hear about Andrew's first movie.
Yeah.
Let's call it the good one.
So good. It probably counts as a movie, but it's more of a limited series kind of thing. So we just finished watching the Murdaugh murders, like Netflix documentary, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking fascinating as hell. And the dude got convicted, I think, yesterday on all charges. So I love a good murder mystery, especially when it's like in our backyard. Basically, it was down in Beaufort, South Carolina. So that's pretty insane in the Low Country. So that was
literally was my backyard for a year. So
yeah, that was absolutely insane to just watch those plot twists happen and crazy crap, man. Just very entertaining, but also very tragic and sad to watch. But I really enjoyed it. I like stuff like that. Kind of short form documentaries that really tell a good story. So that's my good. Bad.
Alternate. So, you want to go, Justin? You want me to go?
Acknowledge Me.
Acknowledge Me. All right. I want you to acknowledge me. Acknowledge Roman Polanski. They're all wrestling named. I'm sorry. Acknowledge Me is the Roman Reigns thing. Chinatown's my pick. Roman Polanski. It's very loose, but that's who I be. We already talked about Chinatown a little bit. We're in March. I'm very hard pressed to find, I think, a movie that's going to beat Chinatown this year. That movie was fucking great. I also learned today that there was a sequel in like 1990 that was not near as good, apparently.
Yeah, I don't watch that.
That is true.
But yes, everyone should acknowledge the weight and the power that is Chinatown. Once Big Trouble in Little Chinatown, Once Upon a Time in Chinatown, whatever you want to go with. It's great. I do wish that most of the movie was in black and white. It would have felt more noir. But how is Jack so good at being cool? Like he in that movie, he felt like he was the coolest guy since Bogey. Compared to the other movies that I know him from, where he's crazy, or kind of crazy. We'll deal with that a little bit later. So,
right on.
All right. Let's go with gut wrenching.
All right. So yeah, stay on that true crime kick. So last week, Adam and I, a friend of the podcast, we got together for I've always wanted to watch that, and we watched Dear Zachary. Now, I had always heard this is quite the punch in the gut, but didn't really know what I was getting into. I came into it, since I knew it was so gut-wrenching, I kind of came into it a little bit more cynically with my guard up, but this is actually a really, really pure-intentioned, while manipulative story. It's about this guy named Andrew, and we meet like everybody in his life and like find out how he's like the greatest person ever. But then like some shit goes down, and yeah, he had kind of a crazy girlfriend who, probably the best moment of the film is when he's like, okay, I'm breaking up with you. He flies her back up to wherever she lives. But then like 3 days after that, she drives right the hell back to where he was, and then ends up, she capped him in the back of the head, twice in the ass. I think she clubbed him and then left him in a park. Anyways, so this is so after this takes place, this guy named Kurt starts interviewing all Andrew's friends, and we find out that Andrew and the killer lady she's pregnant, and so basically he's like talking to all these people, trying to make like this video record of what Andrew was, since he was like this awesome guy. Yeah, things get pretty crazy in terms of what ends up happening with the kid. In terms of like the Canadian justice system, because like usually a lot of things go in the favor of the mother and different child custody kind of things. So she's in and out of prison in a little bit. She gives the grandparents a real hard time about seeing the kid. Spoiler alert. Okay, we by the end of this thing, it turns into a murder-suicide with the mom, because the crazy Canadian government let her out on bail when she had no right to be, when she was about to be extradited back to the United States. So this is just a really crazy film in terms of like, actually, it's the whole time you're thinking, no, this kid's gonna be fine. This kid's gonna be fine. I was almost in denial actually with the big reveal of this death, and at that point it was just like, the reason he made this, and he made it so one-sided, was to get change made within government. So I really admire that. And gosh, it's just his style with how he really revs up your emotions to like love this guy, and then just tears you down and just tells you all this awful stuff. It's quite the ride. Dear Zachary, yeah, check it out. It's not a fun watch, but it's a necessary one.
And if you want to hear Justin talk about that with Adam, that is on YouTube currently, and very soon will be on our other pod platforms, probably the same time as this one. Because that was one of his, I've always wanted to watch this. And we talked to Adam before, during season 1, season 2.
Yeah, it's been like 2 years ago. We talked about that on the cast. It's crazy how time flies.
It really is. All right, Andrew.
What's your bad?
What's your bad?
Got a bad film?
Okay. So, when you live with young kids, sometimes you got to watch a bad movie or two. You know this. This is as well.
Part of life, yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's just like, man. But I like spending time with my kids, right? I try to be a good dad and be there for them, and try to get invested in what they like to and what they like to watch. My daughter is really into mermaids right now because she's 6, and so there's this movie called Mako Mermaids on Netflix, and I sat there with her and watched it during winter break last week when she was off school the whole week, and man, it was bad, dude. It was the production values looked like it was like 1980s. It was made in 2007. It's just terrible. It's like something, I think they made it in New Zealand or Australia. It might have been Australia. It was Australia. But my gosh, just typical teen comedies, typical teen movies that are cheesy as hell, that I might have rose-colored glasses for some things when I was a kid that were like that. But my God, it was insufferable to get through. So that's one I won't watch again.
Like that he instead of admitting that he picked a bad movie for himself, he just threw his kid under the bus. I can appreciate that.
Well, I'm also taking my kid to see a new Mario Brothers movie this year. She loves Sonic the Hedgehog, so it's not all bad.
So
try to steer her in the right direction. Kids movies?
Are you gonna subject her to the original?
I would never do that.
Because I've not subjected myself to that, and I was going to say, if you did...
You've never seen the Mario Brothers movie?
No, I have not.
I saw it when I was 7. It was
terrible. Or if I did, I was so young that I don't...
Maybe you blacked it out.
I mean, maybe so.
Don't bring the memory back into play.
No, and I've heard how bad it is, and I'm just like... I thought about subjecting to myself for it for like schlock talk because it makes sense, but on the other side of that, I'm like, you know what? I would rather not do that.
There's so many better
again. Yes, there really is. Like the next year's Oscar winner, Cocaine Bear, is gonna win everything. I can't fucking wait to see that movie.
Woo!
All right, Justin, hit me. What you want?
Woo! Ric Flair. Or in this case, a movie? Did you watch a Ric Flair documentary?
Nope. In this case, it's John Woo. So I
Okay, that was clever. I don't know what the hell you were doing that first time.
well, the first time was a real hard stretch because it's Roman Polanski and Roman Reigns, but no. I mean, I could have put Chinatown under Ric Flair because Chinatown's like the GOAT and Ric Flair's the GOAT, but nah, John Woo. Better Tomorrow was like his first team up with Chow Yun. I could not find anywhere to stream this, and I could not find a good rip. So my dumbass spent $40 to import this from China on a boutique Blu-ray. Basically kind of like their version of Criterion or Arrow or something like that. And then it came, the picture showed that it had a slipcover. It did not have a slipcover, so I was a little upset. But it was in very good quality. It did look very good to be a movie from like 1986. It has one of the coolest scenes. It's the one where Chow Yun is wearing the aviators and he's lighting a cigar with a $100 bill. That's what movie this is. This is not The Killer. This is not Hard Boiled. This is not Face Off. But it was enjoyable. It was just, like that first pairing between the two. But it's Chinese gangsters doing Chinese gangster shit in the kitchen and, all over town, all over the city. So yeah, it's still worth watching. Maybe don't import it for $40, but I want all the John Woo movies now. So I'm probably about to buy, like, I think it was either Kino Lorber or Vinegar Syndrome has a high-end hard target Jean-Claude John Woo movie, and I'm probably gonna buy that too because I'm that guy. So all right, hit me, Justin, with a big return with some major weight.
All right, so I watched this The Whale, Darren Aronofsky's latest flick. Brendan Fraser, big return. Well, I mean, he's been doing little stuff here and there, but this is his big starring role. He plays this guy that's, just this morbidly obese. He's an English professor, and he teaches. He just sits on his couch there, and he pontificates about writing. He's a good writer, and his screen is blank, so his students can't see him. And yeah, it's the last couple of days of this guy's life. We find out that he has congenital heart disease. He didn't get as big. I mean, he obviously didn't become morbidly obese. A lot of it's like prosthetics and stuff, but you really feel the weight of that suit on him. He really, it feels very genuine, especially as a person that's been large their entire life. There's different nuances, there's this like triangle hook right above his bed, and you just kind of feel the weight of him trying to pull his body up so he can even just get in bed. He's just this immobile. The drama of the story comes in. His estranged daughter comes into his life. He wants to help her with her homework just so he can get to know her and eventually give whatever money he has left. He doesn't want to go to the hospital because he doesn't want to spend that little money he has left. Overall, there's some kind of weird loose ends with this. There's a missionary who comes into the picture who's not all what he seems, and I'm not really, usually Aronofsky's pretty strong with his Christian message, but I'm not really sure what he was getting at here or if it was not meant to be positive at all. I thought the very end was a little corny with how they decided to end it, but overall, really, really great drama with Brendan Fraser. Obviously, he's the center stage in this one. But interesting, a little bit more low key for Aronofsky, but he still knows how to pull a punch here and there. Definitely not. What's the crazy one he did? The drug one.
Requiem.
Requiem for a Dream. Yeah, it doesn't get that intense. Nowhere close to that intense. But. Ooh, I didn't. TMI.
I mean, I've seen like 10 minutes of Requiem for a Dream.
That is probably the most depressing movie I've ever watched to this day.
So I've never seen the whole thing. So I was hanging out with a lady friend some years ago, and for whatever reason, she brought like 2 movies, and that was the one she decided to put on to be the Netflix and chill movie.
Not into that movie at all.
Nope. Like 10 minutes into that movie, we did 100% switch to the other movie. Do I remember what the other movie was? No. Not even a little bit. But so yeah, I've seen like 10 minutes of this movie, and I know I need to see it, but yeah, that's what I keep hearing, like what you just said, and like I don't know right now. I don't feel like being depressed. So the world is depressing enough.
That's
You've
facts.
seen any Aronofsky? You've seen The Wrestler or anything?
I have seen The Wrestler.
You seen Mother?
I have not seen Mother. I need to rewatch The Wrestler because I think what I expected The Wrestler to be going into it was different than what I got. Because I mean, I saw The Wrestler when that was 2013, 2015, somewhere in that area. So it was before Letterboxd, before I started watching movies the way that I do now, and it was just not what I was expecting. So I think that would be one that would be like prime for a rewatch. Actually, would be pretty good.
What's Mickey Rourke doing in a deli? Get the fuck out of there. Get in the ring, bastard.
Randy the Ram, baby, Randy the Ram. I remember him jabbing his. I remember the end. I remember him jamming his finger in the deli cutter, and I remember Marissa Tomei was a stripper. That is what I remember from that movie.
Definitely worth a rewatch.
Yeah,
that's one of his better ones for sure. For me, Aronofsky's in my top 3 directors as well.
Okay.
I mean, The Fountain is still one of the most emotionally resonating movies I've ever seen. Mother is the same way. Mother might be his best film. I really like Black Swan.
Black Swan's fucking great. I love Black Swan.
But Mother, from a story, I mean, oh my God, like Mother was powerful.
Tell you something. I'll tell you after the podcast about that. But anyway, all right. Before we get bogged down some more and go on multiple tangents as Justin and I are wont to do, what is is it an actual true ugly?
It's true ugly.
Oh God, what you got?
So I've tried to stick to my convictions of I'm not going to hate on a movie till I've seen it. I'm 36 years old, so I've matured a little bit over the years. I just don't want to just like hate it to hate it. But a few weeks ago, I sat down and I finally watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, and holy shit. I can't get that time back. Not even with Interstellar. I can't get it back. That movie.
Are you looking at his face? I am ready. I'm ready. Can we pause? Can I go get some popcorn? I'm gonna be the Michael Jackson gif, just sitting there eating some fucking popcorn. I am ready for this shit. All right, continue.
This is so. It wasn't all terrible. Okay, I'm gonna give it some props where credit's due. Okay. I did think that the lore that they added into it made sense. But it just didn't need to be 4 hours. It just didn't need to be. It was a pacing issue for me that really killed it.
But it already wasn't 4 hours. And that sucked too.
Yeah.
Or so they say.
And it's so I'm not a massive Zack Snyder fan. I think he's done some good work over the years for sure. But my goodness, that film, it just dragged for me. And I think it's because that whole universe that they had tried to build to compete alongside Marvel for the last half decade or so, you don't have Henry Cavill anymore, who was a great Superman in my opinion. Just nothing.
I thought they recasted him though for whatever's coming next. From what I've heard.
They also
it all might be falling apart though.
They fucked up Batfleck.
They did.
And say what you want, Ben Affleck can write movies. He's a good actor, and he is obsessed with Batman. They robbed us of a solo Batfleck movie, and we'll never get that back. The only thing we have left is Gal Gadot, and even Wonder Woman 84 was terrible bad. Wonder Woman, fantastic. Yes. Wonder Woman 84, not so much.
Yes. So they had the potential, and I even watched Aquaman. It was a C+ movie for me. It was fine.
It was a big dumb action movie.
It has Willem Dafoe. I'm not gonna hate anything with Willem Dafoe in it.
Dafoe.
But that whole universe should have been building to an amazingly wonderful payoff, and it never did. So it's a massive letdown because I did enjoy Wonder Woman quite a bit. I enjoyed the first Superman with Henry Cavill quite a bit.
It built to John Cena being not the enforcer, whatever.
Peacemaker.
The Peacemaker, yeah. That's what it built to.
Suicide Squad was a lot of fun. The second one with the sexiest man alive, Idris Elba. But
I mean, he can see everything.
It's it's a bummer, man. I just think it's self-indulgent to the point that it took me out of it a little bit. I think it's, I've seen Zack Snyder make quality films. I've seen him make good stuff, but with this DC Universe stuff, it's been extremely missed more than it's been a hit for me, and so it's disappointing. I'm a big DC fan. I grew up loving DC Comics, so to see them get kind of bastardized is unfortunate.
So what you're saying is you loved the Green Lantern?
No.
I've never seen that either. Don't intend to.
I forgot I saw that.
So since you're big, before because it's a tangent, what are since you're a big DC guy, what are your thoughts on not Henry Cavill but Superman the character?
So mediocre at best.
All right.
Mid.
That's why we are boys.
Batman is my guy. So to this day, I know you love noir. Batman the Animated Series is the best rendition of Batman yet. I'm including Batman 89 in this. I'm including Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy in this. That is Batman. That is dark. That is brooding. It gets the feel of Gotham in the comics perfectly. Those early '90s Batman.
I mean, to be fair, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill,
was the Joker, all time.
All right.
I know it's controversial, but Mark Hamill's a better Joker than Heath Ledger was. I'm just saying.
Oh, well, I mean, Heath Ledger's not even the best, live action Joker. He's not Jack. It's a different kind of Joker and a different character. But I mean,
we can move on from that.
So anyway, Justin, would you gentlemen like to hear my pick for V Trigger to get back on track, or do you have something to add to all of the hate for Zack Snyder's Justice League and Superman?
Let's just stick with the trigger.
All right. So V Trigger is actually a double reference. It is a Street Fighter reference, and it is also a wrestling reference. In wrestling, it is the finishing move, and it's a knee. It's like a running knee to the face. And this is a movie that you have some experience with, Ong Bak. And it is just Elbows and Knees, the movie, movie. And so basically, having rewatched this, because I got the Ong Bak trilogy on Steelbook from the Best Boo a little while ago, and Carl and I we'd only each seen one, and we hadn't seen it in forever, so we're like, we'll watch Ong Bak, and then so we can proceed through the rest of them. And so don't steal shit from Tony Jaa, because apparently they steal shit in The Protector, and he goes and fucks them up. Don't steal shit from Ong Bak. I had someone in one of the movie groups on Facebook say that Ong Bak was a certified hood classic. Not exactly sure what that means, but it was a pretty banger of a martial arts action movie. And if you haven't seen it, you should, because Tony Jaa is pretty good. Lots of Muay Thai clinches, lots of knees and elbows, and someone getting crushed by a statue and shit. So it's pretty worth watching. IMO. All right, well, all you have left, Justin, is On the Big Screen again. So what came back to the theater that you went and checked out? I'm assuming is one of these Regal events or whatever.
Fathom events.
No, it was James Cameron wanting more money. We saw Avatar 2, and man, the 3D, and that was great. But there was a trailer for the re-release of Titanic for Valentine's Day in 3D. So the boys really wanted to go see that. Two of the three stayed awake the whole time. Just the little one kind of nodded off a little bit during some steamy car scenes, so I didn't mind that too much.
Paint me like one of your French girls, Justin.
This movie actually was it's a lot more confined and shot in close up than I ever remembered. There's a lot of good emotion Cameron ties into it. The thing that really got me about the movie this time is I was so much more invested in the love story and not thinking about what was coming up until it gets there and you get to the exciting part. Yeah, it was pretty cool in 3D. I saw it a few years ago and kind of reviewed it on Letterboxd and kind of dug into the nitty gritty. So it was fun to just relax and take it in, not worry about too much about the plot. And it was cool seeing it on the big screen. Hadn't seen it since I was a kid, saw it twice back then. But contributed to it making even more money, but it was worth it. So $80 to take the four of us. damn movies.
Oh wait, the 4. So your wife didn't even go?
Mm-mm, she was not interested one bit to see Kate and Leo, you know,
Well, I mean, the movie is
sparking
so
it up.
unrealistic. Like Leo would date someone that close to his own age.
This guy with the jokes.
I mean, sometimes.
Alrighty, so we're gonna get into this feature movie?
I guess we've ran our mouths a bunch. Let's do this.
Alright, you want to tee it up?
All right. Interstellar is a 2014 epic science fiction film co-written, directed, and produced by Christopher Nolan. Stars 1. Maddie Mack, Anne Hathaway, aka Catwoman, Jessica Chastain, aka Bryce Dallas Howard. Never seen him in the same room together. Matt Damon, he's one of the angels in Dogma, and Michael Caine, aka Alfred. And also in like every Christopher Nolan movie. Set in a dystopian future where humanity is struggling to survive, the film follows a group of astronauts who travel through a wormhole near Saturn, Sega Saturn, in search of a new home for mankind. I'm so sorry. I will do that again straight if you want.
No, I thought that was quite. That was. You got it out.
All right.
Finish line, I guess.
So lots of crops, dust, and space, and love.
Yeah, the beginning of this movie, bruh, was like everyone's a farmer back then, and then they show this old house, and then there's dust everywhere, and you're like, all right, we're in like the Great Depression, and then there's like modern technology, and I'm like, what in the fuck have I stumbled into? And then the first, I don't know, in 20, 30 minutes is farming shit, and I'm like,
20, yeah.
like picking up the cover of the movie. I'm like, this dude is in a spacesuit. We're in farming.
Oh, come on. Context. The world is falling apart. There's dust everywhere. And you need more farmers to feed the population and not engineers.
I mean...
There's a reason behind this farming.
Oh, yeah. They go into for like 2 seconds, right? The blight? Where did the blight come from? Where did it go? Is it Cotton Eye Joe? But seriously, like, what? Where did it come from? Why did we, in a world where we know how to build completely oxygenized domes, did we let all of our supply of food die? I don't know. But that was just a plot point to get us
Joey,
to space.
I just need you to be quiet. And just remember love. Okay?
No, I actually loved this movie.
Just remember love. Oh, okay.
I love this movie. This is just a fair question of like, how the fuck? But I realized as I was talking, it was just a plot point to get us to space, where all the good shit happens. Most of the good shit.
So is it,
anyway,
Andrew, are you a 2001 fan?
Love it.
Okay. Is it fair to call this Nolan's 2001?
Yeah, it's fair. I think time will tell if it like supersedes that as like the space film to see. But it's fair to call that now over the last decade or so. I love that he uses Ken Burns' documentary footage from the actual Dust Bowl that happened a number of decades ago to tie in that desperation that needed to be built at the end. I mean, if you read the screenplay for this film, it really delves into how bad it really got. We don't get to see a lot of that in the film itself, why we're in this position, why everybody's a farmer now, why people can't go to college to be engineers anymore. They're going to college to be a farmer instead or what have you. It really delves into and adds a lot of extra weight to the story, in my view of things. So as an example, we get to Matthew McConaughey's opening shot there, and he's in a spaceship clearly, and there's flashes of light. I'm not sure what's going on yet. And he wakes up from a nightmare, right? So what started that nightmare? Where did this come from? And in the screenplay, Michael Caine's character alludes to this in the film quite a bit, but he was basically dishonorably discharged from being a pilot because he wouldn't follow orders. Those orders were to kill millions of people to save the world's food supply. And that's in the screenplay. So I wish it was in the film. It would have added a lot more weight to why they're in the position they're in. I think Christopher Nolan did a good job framing that anyway, from just a bleakness with constant smoke in the air, constant just gloom, constant
dust storms,
just dust storms everywhere. And it really was a nice parallel to what actually did happen. And I think as we've gotten further and further away from this movie, it'll be 10 years old next year. It's probably more relevant now than ever. It really asks those big existential questions. Are we going to be the caretaker generation for our children? Are we going to be able to figure out how to work together as a global society to use science to solve our problems? Or are we going to continue to destroy each other? It's a great question that will probably never get answered in our lifetimes, but I really like how it starts out with that added context for sure.
And I think the part you're talking about where he wouldn't follow orders, Matty Mac, Coop, they do kind of allude to that, like you said. But there's the spot where we'll get there more in depth, but it's he finally he accidentally finds NASA accidentally, and Michael Caine's character, he asked him, hey, are you still dropping bombs on people or innocents? Or he I don't remember the exact phrasing.
Yes. But
it sounds like, oh, well, this was a thing they thought about doing and then didn't do. And it's like, no, it's more like having the screenplay like, oh, well, Matty Mac didn't do it, and Matty Mac's not a scumbag. So
yeah, Matthew McConaughey, the space cowboy. All right. So yeah, definitely have to have the subtitles on for this movie. Otherwise, you're not going to know a thing of what's going on, right?
Watch every movie with subs.
No, it's Malik and Nolan. It's required because this doggone soundtrack's so loud, unfortunately.
I concur. Especially Hans Zimmer. This is probably one of his best scores he's done. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Subtitles are a necessity for your first watch through with this film because it's such a powerful, overwhelming score to fit with the entire theme of the film. Really, it's an explosion from where we are now into where we could be, and he captures that perfectly with his score.
I liked you mentioned the Dust Bowl folks earlier, because when you're first seeing it, like you're envisioning it like, yeah, this is back when the 20s or whatever, whenever the actual Dust Bowl. But then later on, when in the colony where they like make a museum exhibit out of his home, they're using the same footage because I guess it's people actually from that era, but it's it's echoing the Dust Bowl. I guess that's at least what I took away from it.
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah, I figured out that part of that going on when they started. We get to the point where they're like, well, if we go to this planet for an hour, it's 7 years. And I'm like, oh, well, this is about to go off the fucking rails. And it did. It did.
But yeah, that first 20 minutes or so, there is a lot of sulking about, like the current state of things. So it's nice once, the plot picks up where the ghost gives some binary code to lead them to the secret NASA base. There's a couple stretches in this movie, but it's to get it going.
I really like that they, and if you've gone and watched any of the, I guess, supplementary features for Interstellar, or even as I've done, I've read Kip Thorne's textbook, The Science of Interstellar, cover to cover multiple times. It really goes into how much of this is true mathematical science, how much of this is speculative, and how much of this is maybe a mixture of both, where it's theoretical. Kip Thorne, of course, being the advisor for this film, the theoretical physicist that was advising the entirety of it. And Christopher Nolan would just pick his brain to make sure that, would gravitational waves do this, would they do that? And one of the best things about this movie and what it did for astrophysics as a whole is it really gave us the first true mathematical image of what a supermassive black hole would look like. That when they're coming up on I guess, Dr. Mann's plan, which we'll get into later, that is really what it should look like mathematically. And the same thing's true for the wormhole that they approach, as we'll get to. It should be a sphere. And he just does this incredible job of explaining extremely complicated mathematical equations to the average person. And I think that's a powerful thing to do, to humanize emotion and marry it to science. That's pretty awesome what he's able to do with that. So there's so much real science baked into this. It's astounding.
How did you guys watch it, on Blu-ray or digital or?
I own a Blu-ray actually. Yeah,
I have the Steelbook Blu-ray edition of that, and that's where most of the supplemental features I've come across have been.
I watched it on my 4K, and I got this a new bigger set, and I don't know what it was, but some of the shots of like the space station and stuff didn't look quite as good to me on 4K. Like, because I'll look it on, like, because I have a digital copy on my computer as well, so I was looking through that and it looks pretty normal. But for some reason, blown up, that those didn't seem to hold up as well. I'm not sure if you noticed, got any of that as, or did.
I mean, my TV's like 40 inches. I think yours is a bit bigger than that, and I was just on Blu-ray, so I was in 1080.
Yeah, I would be able to see it in 4K. Either have a 47-inch, just standard 1080p. I will say it's interesting that you make that comment because of how they shot that movie with IMAX cameras. So it's interesting that on 4K it doesn't look as accurate as it should look.
I think I have the motion smoothing on, so maybe that played a part in it. So not sure. Maybe I have to tweak the settings on that and see if I can get it look any different. But yeah, he hooks up with the folks at NASA and finds out about this survival effort. What plan A is to send a space station into space, and plan B is just to colonize another world. Is that?
Yeah. So plan A is if Michael Caine's character can figure out his gravitational theory to get enough gravitational pull or force to lift the space station that they were into space and put people from Earth on it, to where they could send that space station and eventually, I would assume, make it to the wormhole, and then, or the supermassive black hole. Thanks, band.
It'd be wormhole.
Wormhole. Muse. There we go. And then go to whatever, live there, and then I guess also if they could find life on one of those planets that the scientists went through the wormhole and found. And if not, then yes, Brand, yes, Anne Hathaway Brand, not Michael Caine Brand, had like tons of embryos, and they were going to colonize a new world with those embryos, and start humanity over on a foreign planet.
Definitely like the theme has going on between doing what is right for your family or what's doing right for society comes up quite a bit. And at one point you kind of look at McConaughey as kind of this Django-esque character, hotshot cowboy pilot going to go out there and save the day, but then you find out so much stuff is totally out of his control. So it's neat to see that brought down to earth in that perspective.
Yeah, watching him spiral when he realized he's lost 23 years of his Earth life, basically, and when all those video messages come flooding in, and he's just the ability to capture what that must feel like if you've lost basically your family, and there's no guarantee that you are going to ever see them again.
In what was like an hour to you.
Yeah, was it?
Or I guess 3 hours.
2 or 3 hours on the water planet that they were on. It's a wonderful portrayal of grief, and not knowing what to do. There's neuroscience evidence out there that if you are in space too long, you start having mental health problems. And I think as we're talking through both of these films tonight, they pair very well together because of that. Just the mental health struggle of being alone in space, and having to explore for the sake of all of humanity versus just your own 3-4 people in your family is an insurmountable weight. And so it's very interesting to see him crumble and see him become resilient even then, to figure out a way to keep surviving. I love the theme of survival throughout this entire movie.
Especially what Matt Damon says about survival instinct.
Yes.
Yeah, that the scene where when they get back from the water planet, and he watches those videos, and Tom is a young child, and then he's Casey Affleck, and then he has a child that's died, and then he has another child, and you see him grow, and it's so emotional. I'm kind of glad they didn't do that with Murph, seeing she just went from being a kid to Jessica Chastain, because you're so much more invested in her. He's had the emotional goodbye with her. He had the fight. She was at NASA. She's the heir apparent. She's everything. So like it was already kind of a gut wrenching thing to see him do that with his son, but with Murph, like I think that would have the effect it would have had on him, plus also the effect it could have had on us, as viewers, and then also that she didn't message. So like, what does that do? Like when you don't hear from someone that you care about, whether it's a family member or a paramour or a friend or whatever, and you just don't hear from them. It is fucking, it takes a toll. Like it's pretty rough. So that's that was that whole part is, I mean, the whole movie is bleak, but that is like really bleak and like really down and just rough.
I thought McConaughey's performance actually improved quite a bit just in that moment, and then from the whole rest of the movie. Maybe because it's not that hot shot mindset anymore, and more of that survival, gotta get home. Nolan sure does that, like that side shot of the spaceship. It looks like the camera's like mounted right outside the window, and it's just shooting right down the side all the time. Yeah. So it's like
it almost reminded me of like a GoPro camera attached to like a snowboard or something.
I mean,
right? It was very.
He was just trying to break another 4K camera. It was like, there's three 4K cameras in the world. We're gonna give one to Chris Nolan. He's like, I'm gonna run it over with a truck or whatever the fuck he did to it. We made that joke. It's like, man, he shot. We're like, man, he got these really good shots of Saturn. Well, he must have sent a 4K into space.
What y'all think of this weird ass AI robot that looks like a couple blocks that move back and forth?
Yeah, they were very weird, but they were very helpful.
They're quite versatile.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess they were former Marines that were whatever year this movie was supposed to be based in. I'm assuming the near future. It's interesting that they were like former military, basically, and
former military robots, and it's very strange.
I guess that means the machines didn't win. Terminator didn't happen.
Well, I mean, speaking of James Cameron, I mean, that's Linda Blair's reaction in that Terminator 2 to the A-bomb was real, because he dropped a real bomb. So
yeah,
that was a meme. Sorry. I had to tie back in, man. I was tying back in.
Yeah, I didn't want to dip into it when you'd said it before, but yeah, I definitely like the Zimmer score. Very, very different for him with the organ music that that gives it more of that maybe more mysterious kind of 2001. It reminded me of a Tree of Life a lot with the kind of the feel, I don't know, something about organ music. It's kind of hard to describe. It just kind of ethereal maybe is the kind of the mood it's
very mercurial, very ethereal, very haunting, but not in a negative way. It's almost like a mystery you can't solve, but you want to keep following it. It fits the film well. The phrase that the poem that Michael Caine's character quotes, Professor Brand, throughout the film, "Do not go gentle into that good night," starts out like that. That's thematically what this movie is about, like raging against the black, raging against the darkness. Pretty powerful throughout that particular segment, as they're getting to that first planet and as they're realizing they've lost so much time trying to figure out what to do next. And then we get to Dr. Mann, and it's I don't know that Matt Damon was never actually advertised in the cast list for this movie, so it was kind of a surprise when I first saw him there. I was like, oh wow, it's Matt Damon, because they do that slow unzipping of his cryo sleep bag, and I was like, oh my god, it's Matt Damon.
I mean, this is where he did a bunch of like space movies, like all close together, because he did. Yeah, I guess Martian. Elysium's not.
He did the Martian after this movie, but still.
Yeah, and then there was Elysium, and they were all pretty close together, right?
3-4 years apart.
Yeah.
In the total.
Yeah, and So it's just it would just kind of make sense that it's Matt Damon. I don't really remember like ads or anything for. I mean, obviously I know they existed, but I don't have that memory of like, oh, it's Matt Damon and they didn't advertise Matty Mac, because it seems like, they would advertise Matthew McConaughey's pretty big deal. I mean, like the cast is stupid stacked. Like,
absolutely.
It's just like we could just leave a person out. It's fine. There's enough people in here. It's fine. It's okay.
Was it just me, or was like the first quarter of this movie, it came off a little bit Hollywood with the acting, and for some reason, that as much as I like "Don't Go Gentle into the Night," but that quote from Kane, it felt a little pretentious in the moment. Although I get why it's there, but I don't know, some of the delivery in the first quarter of the movie wasn't quite hitting, and it is that that Matthew McConaughey breakdown scene. It's like it kind of reels itself in and gets a little bit more grounded. So
that's a fair assessment, actually. I think it really escalates from there to a point where there's like you said earlier, he has to come to grips with there's no control over what's going to happen next, and I might die doing this, or I might get back to Earth one day. I don't know anymore. All that's gone now. And so I think that's, either as a human, either you run away from that or you fight through it and survive through it. And I think that's the gripping theme of that film. Either you bend and break, or you bend and keep going.
And so, do you have something, Joey?
Nope. Y'all are. I feel like I can just sit back.
But you're not allowed. Stop it. Don't do that. No.
No, I'm not going to dip out
Good
of
posture.
my own podcast. Jeez.
So this is the part where Hathaway talks about going to see her boo on the one planet because the data's better, and so she has that whole thing about saying what love has the same weight to it as gravity and a lot of those other scientific
different
principles.
Space movie. They kept mentioning other space movies like Gravity and the Event Horizon.
Mr. Curon, great film, actually. I enjoyed Gravity quite a bit. I do like that there's that juxtaposition of like what can travel across dimensions, what can truly travel across space-time, and it's love and it's gravity. And gravity might be the more powerful of the two. Solving that equation, as we'll get to, proved that maybe they're more interlinked than we think. Those two concepts, theoretically at least. I will get into this as we discuss this film specifically, but there is a reason this film is my favorite film of all time, and we'll get into that as we continue to talk about the movie. We'll circle back around to it, but it is a fantastic way to look at life moving forward after you've seen something like that.
I just thought you were like a huge Anne Hathaway stan or something.
She was very
That's you, Joey.
Oh no, take a dig. Joey likes the hot actress. You no shit. That's who I am, guy. That's
Did
what
you
I'm
just
here
say
for.
I'm gonna take a dick?
Take a dig. Dig. Is that a Freudian slip there, Justin? It's okay. This is a safe space. No one will judge you.
No dicks.
Are you sure?
Oh,
Okay.
Well, something I wanted to say was I think one of my favorite parts about it were the some of the isolation shots. So like when they're on the weird time planet, like it's just their ship and like this whole sea of water. That's really cool looking. And later on, whenever McConaughey and Damon get in a little fight on the glacier, they zoom back and they just see the two guys and around with all this vast world, landscape all around them.
So the water planet, like,
Mm-hmm.
one, great, looked fucking great, right? But like sitting there going, they're landed and they're like, it looks like they're gonna just land into the middle of the ocean, and then it's very shallow, and then they're like, well, where, there's no outpost or anything. And they're like, it should be right here, and it's like something from the beginning should have told you something was wrong. And then you get these crazy fucking like waves that I guess because of how time works, they just build and build and build and build. And I mean, and somewhere up there, I expected Patrick Swayze to be like trying to ride out the storm of the century, but oh yeah, no, I'm in fine form tonight, boys.
Point Break, really.
Those were like really cool shots, but like for just a brief second when they go to land on that, I got like some serious shit. I guess it was Attack of the Clones. They go to the water planet, like the whole planet is water except for it's raining and.
Kamina.
Yeah. That's
Why
kinda
would
where
you
I
think
was like,
about that movie in a time like this?
Because it was a planet made of fucking water, my guy. And outside of, I could have went to Waterworld, which seems that seems like it might have been worse. So, I mean, don't be wrong. Yes, Attack of the Clones is the worst of the 3 prequel movies. That's of the prequel trilogy. That's fair. It's a fair assessment. I'm not trying to deny that. I'm just saying it's kind of what I picked up on. But we were talking about the robots were helpful. You know, save ass. Did not save the guy from American Beauty.
Also the judge from Hunger Games.
Oh yeah,
He died in 2 movies within 2 years of each other.
I mean, sometimes he had to be the sacrificial lamb for both Anne Hathaway and for J-Law, and I mean sometimes he died for Catwoman and Katniss. Like,
ridiculous.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I think Justin just did his best Mark Calloway impression, the best one I've ever seen.
So Matt Damon on the glacier planet.
Yeah. So Matty Damon, we are now we're to the glacier planet.
So he wakes up and he's just like, he sees Matthew McConaughey who pulls him out of the cryosleep chamber, and he's just sobbing. And from the get go, you're like, something's on right here. Like, something feels off about this situation.
I mean, I thought the whole thing from where they landed and how it looked, I'm like, man, everything is off. How little did I know how off everything was?
When they're landing on the planet, so, you know, a very cliche plot twist, I guess, motif is, you know, someone steps in water. It's like, that's the splash of water. It's like, oh, there's going to be a plot change very soon. Well, there wasn't water technically. There was an ice cloud, and they knocked it with their ship as they're coming into land. And so right then I was like, something's going to be off.
I mean,
not gonna be a good experience here.
My thing was, I was like, this feels bad. Like I was like, the clouds are frozen, but this is supposed to be sustainable to Earth, to humans. I was like, this is not going to go good. Like, it was like the shit was already off the rails, but this was going to be like off the rails again, like get back on, get back off.
Yep.
Off the rails, and I was not wrong. It definitely goes off the rails
quite a bit.
But McConaughey keeps things moving forward. Damon's just like, no, there's a swell coming in. We better stay right here. He's like, no, you take me to the outpost. I got to get my ass back home. But it's a trap.
Why he's wanting to go back home? Because Murph messages Anne Hathaway, daughter Brand, says your dad died, and then asks her if she knew that the mission was bullshit. That it was all just like a ploy, that he never intended to save the people on Earth, that it was just to do the colony. And that's where Dr. Matt Damon, it's like, well, I know all about it, blah, 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 goes into detail, etc., etc. And so yeah, then you get that little bit of tidbit. So Matthew McConaughey realizes that like he has to get back if he's ever going to see his kid, and you know, leaves, I guess, kind of like, hey, y'all are going to do plan B, I'm going to fuck back home, yada yada. And then yeah, that's where you're talking about like, hey, we're going to go down to the surface and see what the surface looks like. And
there is no surface.
There is no surface. I was actually expecting in that moment that Matthew McConaughey, like, I knew something was off with Matt Damon. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I suspected that Matt McConaughey was going to kill Matt Damon. Like, he was going to attack Matt Damon. I don't remember why I thought. I was like, he's going to attack Matt Damon. I guess because then they've less tied to be to that world, you know, whatever. He can be like, hey, we all have to go back. And instead, Matt Damon, like, pulls his communicator and then, like, tries to kill him, and they have a kind of like a weird fight with their air blasters and he cracks his helmet and
Yeah, pins him down, breaks his viewing glass.
It's full of ammonia in the air, and so a few minutes exposure. They kind of foreshadowed that earlier in the film that this planet's got ammonia on it. A few minutes of exposure to that will kill you. So Matt Damon is masterfully evil in this moment. With the depths he goes to manipulate Matthew McConaughey into saying, like, are you seeing your children? That's supposed to be the last thing you see before you die is like your children.
Oh yeah, and then don't judge me. You haven't been through what I've been through. Most men haven't, and I can't watch you do I can't watch. And it's like I get that he was desperate and he was framing it as he was trying to do it as survival for the human race, but
it's cowardice in pure form.
How much of it was cowardice for sure, like
isolation sickness.
Isolation. He'd been isolated for how long? 10, 20 years or so?
Who knows?
He had been
he knew it was doomed from the start, is what he said.
Yeah, he knew it was doomed, and so I mean, desperation makes people do dumb shit. And I mean, maybe he wasn't as good of a person as they all thought he was to start with. Like, we don't see him before this moment, so we have nothing to base that off of. We just have to base it off of a man who had ran out of supplies, hadn't seen people in years, had been asleep with no wake-up timer.
Yeah.
And then he faked data, because if he faked the data, someone would come look for him. Whereas if his data was bad, then they would never come and get him, and that was the mission. If the data is bad, then sayonara. So cowardice or survival instinct. He even says that, we can try to save the ones we love, but we can't see past that fence of the people we know out of our line of sight to save humanity. Mm-hmm. So even him, who knows that scientifically, he can't see past saving himself.
Huge irony. Yeah.
Yeah.
Message.
I do like that when they're showing you shots of space itself, especially what happens next in this film, where obviously there's a scuffle. Dr. Mann gets his own ship, tries to escape. He's rigged the other TARS robot to blow at his.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a little drastic for self-destruct.
Crazy. Like I said, just pure insanity seeps in when you're alone that long, I'm sure. So there's a race to get back to the Endurance, their spaceship. And I love that this is, true to science. There is no sound in space. If you got an exploding ship in space, you would never hear it. So when it happens and he tries to dock and it's not docking properly because he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's doing it all with manual controls. Just a crazy scene of, you can feel the tension of building slowly and slowly and slowly to the point where Anne Hathaway's character is just like, hey, don't dock, like, please don't dock. And before she can get the words out of her mouth, basically gone.
I just thought of it now. It's kind of taking the piss out of 2001, because we get blasted in the airlock scene in that from space, and in this it blows up in his face. So
probably definitely an ode, as the only person here and apparently in the world who's never seen 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Well, you insist you have to wait till you've seen 2001 movies before we get to it.
No, I have to see 2000 movies so it can be 2001. Because also, how I feel about that director, and this is like 3 hours. I don't really, really, really want to subject myself to that if I ain't gotta. But also, this made me think of, we were talking about no sound in space. So, do you feel like that while this movie was in theaters, they had to put a fucking message at the beginning or at the start of when you walk into theater that there's a sound, there's a scene where there's an explosion in space and there's no sound, and it's on purpose, and that the audio hasn't clipped out like they had to do in The Last Jedi?
No, they didn't do that.
That was what, 5 years apart, 6 years apart, something like that. And people were so stupid that we had to, we're in space. Why is there no sound? That was like another thing that immediately came to my head. I'm like, man, do we have to tell people this when this was in theaters? Like,
I think the films, those two films, obviously one being fantasy, one being based in actual science, attracts different people. I think from the get-go. Interstellar probably attracted science-forward people that are a part of that community and knew going in they're expecting, and they were advertising, this is going to be very scientifically accurate. And everybody knows Star Wars is Star Wars.
I mean, this is true.
It's good fun, but
I mean, to be fair, in Rogue One, they are literally in space dropping bombs.
Yes.
Dropping bombs. I love Rogue One. And I'm like, I'm not a scientist. I don't think that's how that works. But still, I mean, like, all of us have seen we've all seen Star Wars. Mm-hmm. We've seen this movie. Y'all have seen it multiple times. You've seen it a million times. Like, I don't know if I've seen Kill Bill more, if you've seen this more.
We'll crunch the numbers one day. Tony Khan.
Britt has to be there.
Yes.
But I feel like it's that thing where it's like, obviously something didn't go wrong. It's like, if it's in every theater in the country, like, it's intentional. It's not just one. It never even crossed my mind. It happened, and I'm like, oh, it's quiet, and this scene is cool as fuck. And yeah, but the scene where when the explosion happens in Interstellar, because she's like, he had cut off the normal comms, and I guess she was broadcasting on like emergency frequency or something.
Them off, yeah.
And she was like, "Don't do it." And he's like, "This is a moment in every human survival," and then just gone, and then shit really hits the fan.
Taking it back to Justin's point about the organ music from Hans Zimmer here, this is probably the one scene where it just works the best. The ship's spinning like who knows how many G's in space, and wow, what a powerful.
He does some Tom Cruise Maverick shit, and he's like, "All right, match this bitch, we are going." And I'm like,
yeah.
I think I even
love his comments about the robot. I think he's like, you sure you want to ask the robot to do that? He's like, I can ask the robot anything. What's he gonna do?
It's like, I don't have to ask the robot anything. Tell them.
Yeah, bitch.
I actually think I said something about him being Maverick at some point. I think when he was doing that. No, when he was doing the weird landing where they were spinning down onto the water planet, and I was like, man, that is some Maverick shit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So the decision now is they're going to go into the black hole, but they're going to have to shed some weight for it to work. And so, he's going to slingshot Hathaway to her booze planet, and then I'm not really sure what else was planned there.
Yes, they were going to drop TARS into the black hole.
They need quantum data from TARS.
And use the quantum data, and hopefully it would get to Earth, and that would help them. And as they they're going to slingshot around, and then that should get them to the third planet, Edmund Wolf's planet, I believe was his name, and that's her boo. But as we soon learn that that Maddie Mack is the new boo.
Yeah.
In her mind, I guess, because movie logic.
Let me get
Maddie Mack. Like,
a little bit of a 2001 scene here with him actually going into the black hole and seeing all with the space dust at first, and all kinds of weird stuff before he ejects. Do we know why he ejects? Just for survival purposes?
The ship was like destroyed. Although to me it seemed kind of weird that the spaceship had an eject thing, but I guess it was the go to the Earth, it was space to surface.
It's a hybrid kind of
like
vehicle.
Basically a pilot plane.
A space shuttle. Yes. Off of the Enterprise.
A space shuttle off the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like his we've talked about his character arc in this movie being just like this very cowboy-like person in the beginning, and then like reality sets in and you can't be that anymore, and see him come full circle to a point where he's willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of humanity in that moment, knowing he's probably not going to see everybody ever again. But what I love about this moment, before he actually deploys himself into the black hole and then later on ejects inside the black hole, is no one really knows what happens when you go into a black hole. That singularity moment, like no one knows. And so Christopher Nolan had the artistic freedom here to really do something special with storytelling.
Oh boy, did he.
Yes, he did. And I mean, that's a lucky thing for him, because none of it makes any scientific sense, but it's all theoretical. So who cares, right? Like, until we go into a black hole one day as a species, we're never going to know. So we have to guess the event horizon. When you cross that, no one knows what happens. So it's fascinating what he was able to do to reconnect the plot and make it make sense at the end with the climax of the film. It's truly stunning what he was able to do there.
That, and right before he, because this is where he tricks Anne Hathaway, because he releases her and she's like, oh no, the plan was for both of us, and she was like, why didn't you tell me? And he was like 90%, and they hadn't. Dude, 90% was a big thing about the truth. They made several references to it while they were like on the way to Saturn and shit, and they hadn't mentioned it in for like the whole rest of the movie, in literal human years, like 20, 30, 40 human years, like 3 hours of them. But they dropped it back in, and I thought that was a nice touch. And she sold the surprise and the fear and all of that. And then he goes into space, and then brought some fucking fantastic like special effects and cinematography. And did this movie not win anything? Like,
looking back on it now, it may have been nominated for cinematography and score. It probably won for one of those.
It was 2014. So was that the year that
I have to look it up?
The one where we did the. What year did we do the podcast where we did the Oscar snubs? That was well before 2014, wasn't it? That was like 2007.
Yes, and this would have been the 2015 Oscars, right?
Correct. Right. It looks like it won. It did win an Oscar for Best Achievement in Visual Effects.
Okay.
Makes sense.
It actually was nominated for the original score, did not win that year, but it did win one Oscar, visual effects.
Okay. Seems crazy. It was a fucking damn good movie.
Yeah. For it to not be nominated for Best Picture is, I'd have to go back and look at the full list of those movies from that time period, but it's stood the test of time for sure.
They're pretty off. They snubbed Nolan quite a bit in that category. So
yeah.
So let's see if I can describe what happens next. So he enters a fourth dimensional space, which is, I guess. So they're saying that there's these beings that have created this fourth dimensional space. It's pretty vague. Kind of makes it seem like people from the future, I think is what they're insinuating. But it's
yes,
he ends up
at the end, Matty McConaughey he says that it's like humans from the future, but before that whole point, yes, it's they, and they is very vague. We don't know who they is. Are they aliens?
Right.
Why are they helping us? Blah blah blah.
Because we go back to this scene when they're first entering the wormhole, like 30 minutes into the movie, and Anne Hathaway's like, first handshake. She's like reaching out and touching. Her hands are all ghosty looking and what have you. And you end up finding out that it was Matthew McConaughey the entire time. He's like, Tars, it's us. We're the ones that built this. And so he's in this tesseract form that humans ahead of us created somehow. It works as a plot device. I don't know if it's really based on any sort of hard science.
Because it's like a mirrored image of like being just past her bookcase, and so he can communicate back in time to her and in current time
through gravity. So he was always the ghost, which is a beautiful way to close that story off.
But he's not Patrick Swayze. I'm confused. Also, Gravity is a different movie. Sorry. So not being like a huge science person, like science was never my strong suit. I was like English and history in school. No, I know I don't talk like I was good at the English language, but I was at one point in time. So they built, we come through the wormhole or whatever. Matthew McConaughey comes through the wormhole, and now he's in this tesseract or the backside of the library or whatever you want to call it. But it doesn't just feel like you should just like poke a hole through and just come through, or like blatantly.
It's not the upside down, Joey. It's time space.
Yeah, you'd have to get some pretty. I don't have enough weed in my system right now to talk about time, space time, and theoretical astrophysics. But
I mean, doesn't it just need a DeLorean? Like,
no. So in theoretical physics, when you're talking about gravitational waves, which you can measure in the real world. So we have all of these pieces of equipment across the country, across the world, that will measure gravitational waves. And gravitational waves are signs that there could be wormholes out there for us to explore one day. Now, in all honesty, most wormholes would close before we could even, like within microseconds, before we could even get to them. So something would have to be placed there by an entity. In this case, it was us, humans, that did it, by Saturn, to hold it open so that we could travel through. But we can measure gravitational waves, and that's basically what we end up seeing with Jessica Chastain's character. She's able to read through Morse code gravitational waves coming into the watch and figuring out that it is Morse code and it's the rest of the equation to solve the problem of gravity. Just a brilliant plot device there, based on real science, which is, I think, the theme of this movie is rooted in reality, or what could be one day. So it's less science fiction and more theoretical physics, but it's still possible it could happen one day because of that.
And that unlocks the secret to getting the space station up in space. And so then they find him just floating in space, right?
Right by Saturn, right by the wormhole.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, they have a little rendezvous. She's all old at this point because she was in cryosleep for 2 years or something. And then, everything's good with his family now. And he's a young buck, so he's going to strap on up and go get Anne Hathaway at the other side of the galaxy.
Is he Nick or Matt?
I do like the fact, Justin, that he does become that cowboy again very briefly at the end of the movie. That some doctor tells him, "Hey, they named a Cooper Station." He's like, "Oh, you don't have to do that after me. That's so nice. Not after you, after your daughter." Like, I love that brief moment of just levity in the movie there, where he's like somehow it kicks back in and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm that all right guy," and like he realizes it, like, oh my God, like they did it. I was able to get her what she needed.
And then the ship he gets in looks like a jet. Like, it doesn't, like, I was like, where's the seat for Brand? Like, to go get Brand and bring her back. And it's like, no, he's going.
It's a one-way trip.
Yeah, it's a one-way trip. And that, God damn it, the whole movie is bleak. And I get it that this ending is a happy ending. But they show her on the planet. They show that he has left to go get her. We're already 2 hours and 49 minutes in. You couldn't give me two more minutes of him, like, landing and her running to him and them hugging or kissing or something. I get it. That's super saccharine and super cliche. But God damn it, after that bleak of a movie, you could have given it to me. You could have fucking given it to me.
Yeah, I think that's where we disagree on the ending of the film.
I think
it definitely didn't need
that. The whole point of this movie is, like, Matthew McConaughey says multiple times, like, we spend so much time looking up at the stars, thinking about our future. Now we just look down at the dirt. Like, we've stopped exploring. We've stopped becoming those pioneers. We've stopped that. For whatever reason, we've gotten comfortable and complacent, and it's why our world is in the state it is today, more or less what he's getting at. So for him to leave it on that note and cut it off where, like, he's going back out there and exploring, that's the whole point of the human race. We should be exploring constantly. And so to not get a book closed ending there, I think makes sense for the way he was trying to tell.
And maybe when I rewatch it at some point in the future, I will feel that way.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But it was just like, you couldn't give me just a little bit. I mean, you gave me like a little bit. It's like you licked the tip. You couldn't, like, give me just a little bit more.
There's you can go watch Star Wars for that.
I don't. The best Star Wars is also ends on a bleak note. Like, I don't know what you want from me.
Does.
And as much as I like the cast of the sequel trilogy, two of those movies are real bad. Really bad. Like, two of the worst of the 9 movies, 11 movies, how many of there are? Yes.
Yep.
So
J.J. Abrams did the impossible and made it worse than the prequel somehow.
Yeah. I mean,
so Matthew McConaughey.
To be fair, 7 is just 4, but worse.
But I mean, we've seen enough of McConaughey's character at this point. We know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to go get shit done because, I mean, that's what he does throughout. So I think we know what's in him at this point. So I like it where it ends.
Oh yeah, and I'm not saying it's a bad ending or like that I'm even really mad at the ending. Like that ending fits the movie way better. Just as part of me, it's like,
Mhm.
but I am like a sappy bastard. So
So, final verdict. I think it's a really good movie. I love Nolan's doing these big kind of concepts in a film, and seeing him dabble in sci-fi is definitely in a good next step for him. The science and set designs are all great. It's just those Hollywood elements in the beginning kind of got me, and then the whole power of love thing. I don't. It doesn't quite connect with me as much as Andrew, but overall, I think it's a cool movie.
So elaborate. You said the acting was kind of Hollywood. Explain, seeing as this is a big budget Hollywood movie from a big budget director. 10 years ago, coming out of Batman. He's Inception. Like he's like one of the biggest Hollywood directors at the time. This is a huge stacked cast. Like how's it? What do you mean?
Overly dramatic and not natural. It's that whole. It goes back to the whole like how his cowboy mentality is at the beginning. It just seems way too showy for the subtle kind of movie that we're going for. So it's I guess that's how I would describe being a little too Hollywood.
Okay.
4 stars.
I will say, when you look back at Nolan's journey as a filmmaker with The Following, and you've got The Prestige, and you got Batman Begins right before that, and the alternating things where he did Prestige, Inception, Interstellar. I think that's been his peak as a filmmaker. Everything that's come after Interstellar has been fine, but it wasn't to the level of what I came to expect from that 10-year period he did with Prestige, which is a fantastic film.
Oh man, the movie is so good.
And then the whole Batman trilogy obviously is fantastic as a whole storytelling device there. But and Inception, great. Dunkirk, I did not enjoy.
It was fine. It was nothing special.
It was just fine.
I was definitely not a fan of Tenet.
I have not seen Tenet.
War films don't do much for me, I guess, but yeah, it's just one of those. Tenet was. I don't know what happened in Tenet. That was a very difficult movie to watch. It was so convoluted. I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
So hopefully he comes back with something stronger than this. But I feel like two films after Interstellar, he's kind of peaked as a director. But the reason that this film is so important to me personally, it just deals with, in the year 2014, as a human being, it's probably the darkest year of my life. I had gone through a massive crisis of faith. I was raised Christian, like most people in the South are. I'm no longer one of those, but I had lost my parents to a divorce in that same year, and a good amount of my close friends had moved away for various reasons in that same calendar year. And so I was in a pretty dark place mentally, right? Not a very good place emotionally, or not very healthy at all. Probably the most unhappy I've ever been. I'm very happy now. But that movie sparked something in me to learn how to take more risks again. And, at the time I was, because of the faith crisis and then further faith deconstruction from there, I was like, well, now what? And science was the answer for me. It was just like, wow, this makes sense. This is something that I haven't really explored to the level I should have when I was younger. And so that film will always hold a very special place in my heart because it literally saved my life. I think it's one of the most important films I've ever experienced because of that. Put me on a better path as a human being. And today, in 2023, I've never been happier as a person. It's just amazing to look back on that decade of like pretty hellish experiences and realize that, just like Matthew McConaughey's character, you either stay and die or you fight to live on. And I feel like as a person, I've fought through all of that pretty well. And it makes a big impact. I think it's the power of cinema when you can have a director to tell a story that really resonates on a human level like that, on multiple facets, really. But for me, on a personal level, I feel it's important to share that, why that movie means so much to me.
Yeah, thanks for sharing how it brought you through that dark time. That's really
So
interesting to hear.
so 5 stars, or we gonna break? We going 10 stars? 7 stars? 7 star
I'm not gonna go.
FDR?
I'm not gonna go full Dave Meltzer and give it 7.5 stars or anything, but it's a 5-star movie.
4.5. Yeah, we're making more references you don't get. For all the wrestling, for all the marks out there, these references are curated and layered in just for you. Appreciate it. Even if it's just us listening and back.
And on this additional watch, I teased the whole 2001 to start off with, but I do think this film is going in a lot of different directions and using that platform. I do complain a lot about a lot of modern sci-fi is just kind of borrowing from 2001, but I think Nolan kind of went in a different direction that I appreciate. So, all right, do we need a break or let's go roll into the next movie?
Well, one more thing.
Okay.
So I'm really, honestly, I'm not a big sci-fi person. I know that's probably kind of surprising, but like sci-fi does not do a ton for me for whatever reason. Like Star Wars, space, fantasy, western, cool. Space samurai, about that life. Star Trek, Babylon, Stargate, This movie, fucking fantastic. Even with the weird, always kind of takes me out of shit. This is really good, and I think for anybody who's listened to this, if you've listened through this and you haven't seen this movie, I would still say go and watch it. It's fantastic. Carl even said, knowing the plot points, knowing what was happening in the beginning when we were just experiencing the ghost and we don't know that it's Maddie Mac, like how much extra emotion and stuff that added to it, and I assume that is something that you guys can verify.
I did appreciate knowing that it was coming to that rather than being surprised by it, for sure.
So there's that side of like I was surprised and like, okay, that's kind of wild, but like, okay, but yeah, it is. I mean, we've all watched a movie where now when you know the plot point, something, it's like this other thing makes sense, or this thing that you thought was unimportant is now super important. So I think if you're still here and you hadn't watched it, or maybe you've watched it and haven't rewatched it, then you should definitely take the time. It's a long movie. It's like 3 hours, but it didn't feel like 3 hours. There's a lot of times where if you've listened to this podcast, you've heard me specifically say, man, this movie is 3 hours long. If it was 2.5 hours, this movie would be great. Or it's 2.5 hours. If it was 2 hours, it'd be great. This movie just doesn't feel long. Like it paces itself very well, even in the spots where not a lot is happening, but a lot is also happening. So this is what I have to end with on Interstellar.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a 1975 American psychological comedy drama film directed by Milos Forman. Based on the 1962 novel of the same name, the film stars Jack Nicholson, plays a new patient at a mental institution alongside Louise Fletcher, who plays an austere nurse. Total bitch, more like it. Anywho, it also features a supporting cast of Danny DeVito, and also, I didn't realize this until I was looking at Wikipedia, Christopher Lloyd and Brad Dourif's debut films.
Yes.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I was sitting in that movie and I'm like,
that's Christopher Lloyd right
there. That's Christopher. I'm like, and that's fucking Danny DeVito. And then there was the one kid who I'm guessing is Brad Dourif, because he's Bill.
Wormtongue.
He's Wormtongue?
Yeah.
The stuttering kid?
Yep.
Yeah, the kid who looked way too much like the guy who was in Game of Thrones and John Wick.
Oh man, yeah, towards the end, he was like the awful Ramsey.
No, he was the one who got tortured by Bolton Ramsey. He was the one who he was like sent from the Greyjoys. Theon Greyjoy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I don't know his real name. But also, he killed John Wick's dog, so he got what was coming.
He did. Kill that dog, you're gonna get got.
Anywho, yeah, this was my pick. I've been on a quest to. I've seen all the Best Picture winners now. I'm just going back through the ones I had seen and it's been a while, so I can actually review them. So I had a pretty memorable night watching this film for the first time. I think I watched this first, followed by Citizen Kane. So two big bangers.
That is a hell of a night, fam. That is a hell of a night.
That is.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into it. So, Jack plays a guy named McMurphy who thinks it'll be easy to kind of ride out the rest of his prison sentence in a psych ward. But much to his chagrin, he runs into Nurse Ratchet, who becomes the bane of his existence.
Who is a ratchet bitch. Just a ratchet ass bitch.
The
Her name unintentionally
fits.
aged very well.
Her
So
last
most
name
of the time-
really is Ratchet. Yeah.
So most of the time we're hanging out with Jack, and these mental cases that he's around. To much to his chagrin, he is shocked to find out most of them are there voluntarily. So that's kind of definitely a big change-up moment. So early first impressions of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
So McMurphy, totally fucking not crazy, but definitely like an agent of chaos and arrogant, like overly arrogant, like to the point of he literally was outside of the fucking mental institution, could have escaped. Nope, they wouldn't have found out. He would have been in the bus and, I mean, they would have found out, but he would have already been in the bus and gone. Like, the fuck? Could have left. Nope. Took all the boys out, went fishing. Could have been out the window, off the cut, gone completely, already in Canada. Nope. Had to have a party, had to get homeboy laid, passed out in front of the window. Like, could not have fucked that up harder if he tried. But movie was fucking great. Nurse Ratchet, I think I said in my review that she was near Jenny levels of bad. She might. I think she is. I think higher up on the list of movie villains than Jenny, because she a cunt. That is my first impression.
I did not like her. Talk about evil people. It makes Matt Damon look like a fucking good guy compared to her. Yeah, this movie was very, very interesting for me because I feel like it speaks to how horribly we have mismanaged just like the subject of mental health in this country, and really the world at large, and the stigmatization of all of that. I think that's a word, stigmatization. The stigma behind all of that is still present today, even though people are talking about it more and people are admitting they're medicated and they're in therapy and what have you. It was, it makes you think like back in the time where they still had true mental institutions like that, did they really need to be in there? Seems like probably not. And so I love the introduction of Jack Nicholson's character here, McMurphy, because it kind of proves that point to a tragic fault, that you just don't know what to do with a prisoner or what have you, or a criminal. You send them to some crazy house and then they don't ever get out of there, or they die there, or like they do get out of there but they're never the same. Like it's incarceration on a blue collar level, I guess. And it's just not understanding the human condition back then. So I thought that was very interesting to introduce him as an agent of not just chaos, like Joey says, but really a disruptive force for potential good, raging against this pillar of evil that is Nurse Ratchet.
Against the machine?
You know it.
Rage against the dying of the light.
And like, so to the point, like, he's not crazy, but like one of the things, he wanted to watch the World Series. He was like, even in the coolers, the can, the joint, whatever, he could watch the World Series, but here they couldn't watch the World Series. And it was a big deal and it was a big fight, and she like made him, like, he was trying to get these votes, and she was just such a fucking cunt about it. And at first, I'm like, okay, well, there's a procedure, like she makes the point they're on a schedule, and I've closed the vote, and if like what happens if she opens the vote here and then the next time, like I could see like okay, she's just she's doing her job, but then it's like, sure, but like in the outside world, you just watch the World Series. It's the fucking World Series. Like, maybe he was making too big of a deal out of it, But also, if you're trying to get a sense of normalcy and you're trying to see if someone is like, people care about sports. That's the thing he cared about, and he just wanted to fucking watch it, and he wanted to watch it with his friends. And yeah, he did, you know, dirty shit, the gambling ring, and taking all their cigarettes and shit. But like, even the things, you know, where he got in trouble, like he went into the nurse's station to try to get something. It's like, you guys aren't doing it, I'm just gonna fucking do it. Or when he broke the window, like, and you know, it was just give the man the fucking cigarettes. Like, this would solve this problem right now, and you could still talk about it. It just seems like he tried to do so many logical things, but they were just outside of the norm. Like, you know, rebelling against what society tells you to do. How many people have been called crazy because they didn't do what was expected of them, or what was the norm, the societal norm?
Expectations, right?
Yeah, exactly. And obviously this movie came out in the 70s, and the 60s and 70s were a time of that kind of rebellion, you know, that, you know, hippies and Woodstock and all that other stuff. So, I mean, I think, feel like it fits, you know, to that time period of what the movie was wanting to say.
Sure. It's an excellent commentary on all of that. And I think when you look at the story that's being told, it's one of manipulation. And this movie is billed as a dark comedy, but it really delves into some psychological horror, I think. Because of Nurse Ratchet's, that character, that whatever that force is in the metaphorical world that's keep people down from being their truest selves. And so they're sedated by society. They're sedated by expectations and what have you. And they can't really be their true full selves. That's in the 70s. Nowadays, people can do whatever the fuck they want, hopefully. But my God, like, what a beautifully told way to introduce a little bit of horror elements into that kind of story. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Or like you take the scene where they're trying to determine if McMurphy should go back to the prison or if he should stay, and they're all like, "No, he's not. Yeah. He's not crazy." And then Nurse Ratchet's like, "We can help him here." And so it's this veil of the evil. She's veiling her evil with kindness. Like, yeah, it's better for him to be here. You know, in the prison, he's gonna fight and blah blah blah. Here, we can take care of him. And what ends up happening? He ends up with the electroshock therapy. And then he ends up with a full-blown fucking lobotomy. Like that's none of that, you know, is good. Like that is so
it's inhumane.
Yeah, I mean,
he comes into it and he's really trying to give these guys a sense of like, let's forget about our worries here. You know, let's be guys, and it goes against her whole tyrant intimidation game, because I mean, she'll sit in these little group meetings and she'll bring up a real touchy subject with one of them, and then she's like, well, what do you think about that? She's like pitting them against each other. So it's this total like system of like this tyranny, and they're all freaked out about her. I mean, you know, they're crazy, so they'll have their little moments where they're, you know, having a little bit of fun. But yeah, that totally breaks down Jack, because I mean, he comes in there, I mean, he walks up into the nurse's station like, oh, I'm just grabbing this and this, because he thinks he's above all these crazy nut jobs. But nope, that's not how they see it at all. He is one of the patients. And so yeah, she's definitely going against the grain. He's going against her grain. But you know, she makes the rules and she makes the games. And yeah, like you're saying, it's very much like probably more rebellious types, what they were trying to probably speak out against the government and getting quieted. So yeah, I can definitely see that kind of illusion going on here in the mental institution context.
Yeah, and like I didn't know really at all what to kind of expect going in this movie. I didn't really know a ton about it. Like I knew Jack was in it, and I knew it was a very famous movie and very acclaimed, and I kind of had a suspicion, you know, with Over the Cuckoo's Nest, because, you know, going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I can't stop myself. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it's just like I never really thought about it as like a horror element, like until you were talking about it, and it's just like the other side of that is like the chief. The whole he plays deaf and dumb, and everybody just leaves him alone, and it just shows like if you know. I don't want to reinforce that old adage of, you know, keep your mouth shut and people think you're stupid, and then open your mouth, remove all doubt. But it was like, how much stuff did he know? And here and all of that from just not talking and not responding. Also, how hard is it to be like, chief, 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 or if you're not expecting them and then someone be like, chief, and you like, how?
Well, there's that at the very beginning of the film. There's that highly insensitive. I delve into saying it's a little bit racist what Jack Nicholson does, just mocking him for being an Indian, right? Like, but it's also like that was how things were back then for sure. And when he finally gets to the point where he gets to escape, and he's the one that gets to pull the giant water fountain out of the thing and throw it out the window to get out of there. It's such a revolutionary idea to put into a film like that when you're trying to escape a system of repression. So this could apply to a number of different people groups, right? As just a metaphorical way to say, eventually we can break through this and have what former Congressman John Lewis used to say, like that nonviolent protesting that people can do, like where there's not a whole lot of you don't got to do it Jack's way or McMurphy's way. You can do it a different way that's going to give you inner peace at the end of the day, despite the oppression that you're under. So, fascinating way to tell that story.
I'm usually not a big fan of troublemakers in characters, but Jack's, like, how he acts is just so infectious, and you just want to be around him. And so, like, those moments, like on the basketball court or going fishing, or these pops of moments definitely, I think, is what really make the movie as memorable as it is.
Yeah, I don't think it would have worked without Jack. I really don't. Like, I think the reason this movie won 5 Oscars is because of Jack. I mean, that up until this point, 1975, even Danny DeVito had only been in like bit roles for the first 5 years of that decade. So this is his breakout moment as well. And his character is so good. He's a triumph in this movie. I love the interactions with him and Christopher Lloyd, and just the weird little quirks that each of them has, right? Like I think it's easy to put yourself into the shoes of someone, especially if you struggle with mental health at all, of like, wow, if I was born 30 years earlier, that could have been me sitting there, right? So it really humanizes it for somebody who's watching it in the modern day, 40 years later. It's certainly something that resonates louder now because it's more acceptable to not be okay.
I mean, and also, like, we think about so many things now, like you said, they're talked about, or it's not uncommon. How many friends do we know who are like, oh, well, yeah, I have to do blah blah blah, I have therapy this day, or whatever, and it's not even a thing. Like, it's like, okay, oh, you're going to therapy, cool, great. Yeah. But like back in the day, people who did go to therapy, it was hush hush, or it was like they're doing this big group therapy, but like now it's
just creating more division and animosity.
Now you'd never think of that. Like, I mean, I've never personally went, so I can't speak from experience, but I can speak from what people have told me, and that is not usually the only way it's like a group session is like couples or
sure.
that kind of thing, and it's so that seems like it's kind of crazy. Or you think about, like, what is something that one of us, anybody, not the three of us specifically, but a person does that now is normal or is fine, but would get another person, like back then in the 70s or even further back, would have gotten them institutionalized, where they would have gotten like electroshock therapy or lobotomized or whatever. And it is kind of like, of all the bad things that we have in our world, like,
there's a laundry list of them.
Yeah, like, at least we don't have that, I guess, most of the time. It's this movie it was very powerful, in a much different way of power. It was also very bleak, much like Interstellar. Just a different bleakness.
But I think it manages the comedy and the drama. It balances all that out pretty well. I love how baseball is the big thing he wants, and that the American institution of baseball, and everybody can just imagine, having a few beers and cheering on to a game. And I love that moment where he recreates that after he's defeated again and again by Ratchet.
Oh yeah, where he's like calling out the play-by-play, and he's just naming off the players. I mean, obviously, they dropped Koufax and Mickey Mantle, and those are people even nowadays, like people who don't know sports, who Sandy Koufax is, who Mickey Mantle is. So like, that, you know, obviously was supposed to be more of a reference to the big stars then, but that's one of those things, like, even now, like, that still resonates. Maybe, you know, listening to it on the radio, because he definitely sounded more like a radio play-by-play than, like, say, Joe Buck or somebody calling on, you know, on TV. But it was that it felt authentic outside of the language, but it felt authentic, you know, that he was doing that, and everybody, like, they were all just having a good time and it was fun. And then there's Nurse Ratched. He's like, hey, she's like, y'all need to calm the fuck down. And, like, it was just, yeah, Nurse Ratched. Man, what a bitch. That scene at the end where she manipulates, she's like, I'm such good friends with your mom.
Yeah,
Don't, and, you know, shamed him for, you know, being a young man, and shamed him for getting laid. And it's like, forces him to like rat, to be a snitch.
Yeah.
Like, and then what happened because of it? Because that he was there because he actually had tried to commit suicide. And now you've made him feel so ashamed and embarrassed that he actually does it. Like, you aren't there helping these people. Any veneer or any part of the veil that was left that she might have was just, she was trying to help, and was, you know, this is how she knew how to do it. Maybe it was a little hard. Like, any of that argument that you could have had still at that point was just shattered. I mean, obviously we're at the end of the movie there, but it was just completely shattered. And then you rewind and you look back at these other things and you're like, oh yeah, no, she a ratchet hoe. Like, for sure, like, no cap. So
I like the first scene with the water fountain where he, like, is so convinced with this blind belief that he can do it, and, you know, he tries and he tries and tries, and then he walks away. He's like, ugh, at least I tried, goddammit. And yeah, he is definitely trying throughout this whole thing, but unfortunately is ramming his head right into the brick wall of the Ratchet Institution.
Yeah, and like, he still thinks he's got, you know, like 70 days or whatever. He's like 68 days, and that's when the orderly's like, nah, man, we let you out whenever the fuck we want. And that's when he finds out that everybody, you talked about earlier, people were in there of their own volition. So it was kind of, you know, shocking, you know, because, yeah, you think, you know, oh, I'm not crazy, I'll go hit the psych ward, I don't have to do my work detail, I'm just gonna chill. And it's like, no, you better play our game. You want to get out, play our game.
It take you out of it at all whenever you're watching the fishing boat and you're like, doesn't seem like they're on the water, are they? Oh well.
I mean, I think kind of what took me out of it is, like, is this his 15-year-old girl? Did he escape with his buddies and go pick up a 15-year-old girl to fuck on a boat? Like,
yeah, that scene was disorienting for me. I think it was just like, yeah, you spoke about him being a very arrogant character, and, like, it's one of those things where, like, when you go back to that first scene where he's, like, trying to pull the water fountain out by himself, when you get involved as a person, and you're made educated of oppressive issues around you and injustices around you, the first thing you want to do is try to be that white knight and, like, try to, like, fix it all in one day. And it's a perfect metaphor for that in the modern era. I don't know what that is.
It's my phone beeping.
Oh,
Proceed.
So it's one of those situations where time and again in this movie with this character, it's that blind faith that truly just, you know, you can't beat a institution by yourself. Systemic issues that plague our world can't be defeated by one person overnight or within 68 days, as he said he thought he had. And it's just, that's why it's so bleak. Like, most of us in our lifetime will probably never see the end of racism. We'll probably never see the end of white supremacy. We'll probably never see the end of anything that's an injustice in this world. But you have to keep chipping away at it as a community and hoping that generations from now it gets better for the next generation. And I think that's the tragedy of this film. That's so well played at that last couple of scenes where, you know, McMurphy doesn't get to see that, but somebody who was oppressed does, and I think that's a beautiful moment.
Got anything, Joey?
Oh, I was waiting on you.
Okay.
I figured you had something.
I
You're the
always have
smart guy.
something, brother. I was getting into the electroshock therapy moment, the first one, or the electroshock punishment moment. I didn't notice at first until I flipped back through it that, what is it, Chief, him, and then the older guy with glasses, which he actually was probably my favorite inmate, just because there's a lot going on with it. I mean, he's a little whiny, but at the same time, there's just so much, he has so much life to him, and he's so sincere. I want my cigarettes and stuff. So, I really connected to him, but it boggles my mind that even after this whole electroshock treatment, he comes in acting like he's brain dead, and then he quirks a smile and he's right back to his mischievous self. It's like, dang, he's not gonna let them break him, but they're gonna break him nonetheless.
Yeah. Also, this is the first. I think this is the first time that Jack gets just fucks with Scatman Crothers in a movie.
Bribes him.
Bribes him. I mean, he gets him pretty crunked up. He gets him a lady friend.
Mm-hmm.
Probably gets him fired. It's better than getting him killed, like he did a few years later in The Shining.
You and your connections.
So, also,
Yep.
the fuck kind of name is Scatman Crothers? That is, you're the shit man, baby. Not you're the shit. You are the shit man.
Oh, we already kind of got into the party quite a bit there, but yeah, the girls come and he gets Dora filleted, and that leads us to our climax where,
No, we're past the climax at that point.
well, no, I mean, I would say,
Double entendre. I get it.
I know
I'm
you
with
did.
I'm with you on that.
man,
There it is. There it is.
Oh,
okay, you wanna go about Duruff losing his virginity? I'm thinking about Jack strangling Ratchet. So, tomato. Yeah, and he ends up getting lobotomized. So the end.
he was so close to giving that bitch what she deserved.
So close.
So close. And then he got
Like
bobbed in the
none of
back.
his fellow inmates could have just been like holding the other dude's back. Like, well, like be on the lookout.
Yo, where's Chief? Where's Chief? Like, what's?
Yeah, what happened there?
This bitch had it coming, because like that's what all of that at the end, 100% her fault. And then they have the little scene where they're like, oh yeah, well McMurphy escaped, and they're like, nah, he's upstairs, he's docile, and they're like, nah, he escaped. And then
Chief puts him out of his
there's all
misery.
like, huh?
Chief puts him out of his misery.
Yeah, Chief is excited that he's back because he thought he was, and he realized you could see the scar, and he wasn't doing anything, and he's like, I'm not gonna leave you like this, and
Puts him out of his misery.
put him out of his misery, and that is, and then yeah, that's rough, and then he goes and picks up the water fountain or whatever, and
So you're thinking that really happened?
that he killed him.
No, that Chief actually pulled out the water fountain and ran to freedom. I kind of saw that as some magical realism.
I did too. Because the movie starts out with that beautiful landscape, and it ends with the beautiful landscape. So it's
And
very
you hear that
dreamy.
gentle Native American kind of drumming, so it kind of has this mystical quality to it.
Yes. So it's I like that it's kind of a little bit ambiguous as to whether or not that actually happened.
Cool.
I think it's good. I think it's a good thing that it probably wasn't real, because you cannot escape a system of oppression that easily.
Right.
So it's just wishful thinking. It's one of those like, oh, maybe one day, but never happens.
All right, see, like, look, it's someone who just looks at shit as what they give me on the screen. Like,
You gotta feel
real.
it, Joey.
Huh?
Gotta breathe it in. Gotta be like,
Breathe it in.
ooh,
I'm not breathing this
this-
Scatman, okay?
this-
I'm breathing in this huge friggin' guy who would serial crush some guys. This huge guy kills his new bestie because they've already he unalives him. They've already killed him when they lobotomized
They unalive him.
unalived him, yes, so we don't get demonetized.
Too late.
Look, they on screen showed me a huge guy lifting a huge thing and throwing it through a window.
No, they didn't show that.
That is
No, he goes to pick it up, and then they cut to him running away. There is no throwing through a window.
No, they show him.
They show him throwing through a window.
Yes.
Yes,
1,000%.
Because Christopher Lloyd wakes up and he's like, he got out. You know, like that was
they show it. They show the water coming up. They show it fucking, because it doesn't just, the window doesn't just explode. It takes part of the top of the wall and all of it out of there. Did Johnny give you a fucked up copy, my guy? Because I 100% got mine from the Zon. $4 worth.
The Zon.
It happens. He pulls the water out of the ground. Basically, my first thought was like, he's gonna die. He's gonna slip on the water and fall. Because there's a quick camera cut at the ground floor level of like all the water bubbling up, and I'm like, he's gonna just slip and fall and kill himself. Like,
or he's gonna jump off of a roof and hit somebody in the head with the toilet. Because that is the other thing that I thought of, was he pulled and all that water came out, is when he pulls the toilet up in Boondock Saints.
So yeah,
Look, I'm Irish and it's March. You can fuck right off, Justin.
Verdicts?
5 stars. Minus 5 stars, but 5 stars.
It's definitely 5 for me. It's 5 Oscars, 5 stars.
I mean, the logic there is hard to argue with.
I think it was a very pivotal film for the career of Jack Nicholson, number one. But it launched so many other people into stardom from there. I mean, like 5 years later, you got, Doc in Back to the Future. Christopher Lloyd has a huge career from there. Danny DeVito becomes fucking Penguin a decade or so later. And
a stripper in Friends. Let's not forget.
In Friends.
Yeah.
A beautiful one at that.
And he's in Twins and
yeah,
he was in all sorts of shit.
It's interesting, just like what that movie did for the careers of these like A-list stars now.
And it got Scatman Crothers killed 5 years later.
But yeah, it's for me. It's definitely 5. It definitely stands the time. Like I said, I screened this movie with Florence Film Society back in 2013, and I hadn't seen it since then. It's been about 10 years since I'd seen it. I watched it yesterday, and it holds up quite well. And I think it makes more of an impact on me now than it did back then.
Nice. Very human drama. I like the comedy. Great moments scattered throughout. The feud between Jack and Nurse Ratchet's it's iconic. It doesn't end out so well, but very moving film. I don't love it, so it's just 4.5 for me. Just
man, we need to go back and check the tape. Is this gonna be the first time where we watched 2 like more artsy movies, and I gave both the movies a higher score than you, Justin?
One of us. One of us.
Hold on.
One of us.
Is it because neither one of them is in the collection? Is that why they're not masterpieces for you?
Here we go. All right, so what are we watching next time?
What are we watching next time? So, you know how I do things. My quote is always tied into my pick. So my quote.
Watch a Die Hard movie?
No, the question is, who said that quote in Die Hard? Who was the actor?
Was it Justin Long?
It was not Justin.
Oh, Kevin Smith?
It was Kevin Smith.
Okay.
So, we're not even supposed to be here.
You want to watch Clerks?
Clerks, baby. Clerks. It was time for a rewatch. This is my rewatch pick. We haven't delved into any Kevin Smith movies. So, Clerks.
All right, Andrew. Should I do the Joey friendly pick or maybe the Joey exploratory pick?
Oh God.
Delve into that concept for me. How would you define exploratory versus?
Well, like Lars von Trier, I've introduced Joey to a few of his films. Didn't get along so well with the masochism there. Although he did say a comment earlier in the show where he would be hard pressed to replace Chinatown. So I do have something in mind that might just do that, or I could go in something a little bit more against the Joey grain. Not that that's all that hard.
If I get any sort of say in this, the fact that you have something you think is going to knock Chinatown, first of all, I'm curious as to how your brain operates. You should know me. Well, we've known each other since we were like 18. We've been doing this podcast for 4 years now.
Okay. Challenge accepted. We're gonna watch. Okay, we're gonna watch Bogey's Treasure of the Sierra Madre then.
Oh, he's throwing Bogey up against Jack. Oh,
the original Jack is Bogey.
Yeah. All right, I'm fucking game. Let's go. Let's fucking go, son. Man, I wish I would have known that because I debated between several movies what to pick here. Like instead of Clerks, it was almost Jackie Brown. It was almost Res Dogs. It was almost Lebowski. Casablanca came through up there. So it would have been really cool where I'd pick Blanca and then you would pick Treasure of the Sierra Madre. So,
and just for the record, I've picked Roadhouse for this man. I've picked a lot of stuff that are up his alley. So whenever I do drop another Kubrick or a Malick one of these days, I do not want to hear shit. I want him to take that pill and enjoy it.
Yeah, I feel like if you do Malick, I want in. That's something for me. Terrence Malick is one of my favorite directors of all time.
To be fair, I was going to do Roadhouse myself, but you took the category that I gave you and you just made it happen, which was a movie starring a wrestler. And even though our boy, whose name all of a sudden the fucking
Funk,
cowboy
right?
who always fought Ric Flair, Terry Funk Master himself, was not the star of that movie, I let that go because Roadhouse deserved it. So,
if you'd like to be a part of the Movie Club cast, you can email us a question. We'll answer it on the show. How do they get in touch with us, Joey?
That is at the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast at gmail.com. We do still have a Facebook page. There is a button right there. You can just click it and it will take you to that email. You can make comments there. You can find us all on Letterboxd. You know all of our Letterboxd, mine and Justin's by now. We're both pretty active on there. Justin a little bit more than me, just because he somehow still watches more movies than me, despite everything that he does.
A lot more movies.
Say what?
A lot more movies than you.
Oh well, yes. Like you're at like 40 and I'm at like 13 this year, but you have 3 kids. I don't actually know how you do that. Without like cocaine or something.
Cocaine bear.
Were you the supplier for the bear?
Thanks so much, Andrew,
for coming. Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
All of this will be in the comments or in the description. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm rusty. Sorry. Do you want to give any contact information, or do you want to remain anonymous, my friend?
Thanks so much for joining us, by the way. I really appreciate all the insight you brought to both of these movies, especially Interstellar with reading the screenplay and your personal connection.
Yeah, it was a pleasure and honor.
There was a reason I picked this guy, because I thought it would be a good time. I thought y'all would have a good conversation.
We did.
Justin, I feel like you and I would certainly go to town on Criterion Collection films together. So if you ever, if Joey's just like hard pass.
He doesn't have a choice.
People can find me on the internets and in various places. Letterboxd, I am Mandrew Bates. You can add me there if you want to see the movies I enjoyed watching. And on Twitter, I'm also Mandrew Bates, so add me there. And on Instagram, same handle there. So
he is Mandrew Bates everywhere and all the time. He is the man of my heart, the Mandrew Bates of my heart.
To beat the Mandrew,
you have to be the Mandrew. Woo!
All right, I better let you guys have your room to yourselves. So Joey, why do we do this show?
Whoa, that sounds like some hate there. We were talking about you and this was a safe place, my guy. What the fuck? Man, that kind of joke is not appropriate in 2023. Funny, but not appropriate. So, Justin, why do we do this show?
Because we love talking shit about, talking movies with one another and analyzing and taking digs at each other. Yeah.
Just remember, talk shit, get hit.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Andrew.